Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. In today's Friday morning ramblings, I'm going to show you real quick couple of minutes on what I'm growing indoors, talk about, maybe some tips that help you out. Then we're going to get out into the garden. End of January, ground's frozen solid. How do we kind of deal with the blue period when, we're used to being out there, but the ground's frozen solid. There's not much to do January, February, March. Start with starting seeds indoors. I have plenty of videos on it if you want to check that out. So what I start now, really in January, are perennial flowers. Those are Shasta daisies right there. I got purple cone flower, butterfly weed. Things that can grow well for a long period indoors are perennial flowers that will just get massive roots. The roots are really super strong. I'm just going to tear this down the middle, put them into a cup. If they get overgrown, again, I'm going to tear the roots down the middle, split it up, and you can just take these overseeded perennial flowers and just move them into other containers. So you end up with dozens, even if you're doing a lot, hundreds. There's 6, 12, 18, 24 divided, that's 48 divided again, we're almost to 100. And you can just do your Shasta daisies like that. Putting in thyme, oregano, you can see that there. These are all healthy. Started on January 9th. I think today is the 29th of January. A lot of these failed. You can just see these were started on the 14th and only a single clump is coming up in them. And sometimes that happens. Don't know why. Treated the same exact way to worry about. I have well water, algae's in there. When you water, turn on the lights, algae takes off and grows. So it just is something that happens. Also, if you can see, that is peppermint. That takes a while to get going, but lemon balm, peppermint, spearmint, all those things are great to start by seed indoors. They take longer. This space here is doing okay. It's this other space, I don't know really why they died. Now I'm thinking, seriously, that maybe I was doing a video on this and I only seeded the corners, and then to save time I stopped putting in the seeds and then I forgot to finish them, so maybe that was a mess up. But it's going to happen that one flat may not do well, your other flats may do well. Don't overstress about it. Just stick to a routine that works for you. I have tomatoes that are going in now. They went in on the 26th and 27th. I'm going to be growing them in a little bit of a different way to try and get a jump on the season. I'll be doing videos on that. People always ask me, when do I start my plants? Bottom line, to keep it simple, if you kind of figure out when your outdoor earth in the ground is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, then you count backwards. And the way you figure out the 50 degrees is you have to look on an old weather map or whatever and look to see when the nights are in the 40s or 50s, the days are getting into the 60s and 70s, you're getting rain, and over that week or two of those temperatures, the top 6-8 inches of your soil warms up. That's when you plant. So for tomatoes, I have some dwarf Tiny Tims here. I'm going to be doing a video. If you want to subscribe, ring the bell, follow me on how to grow these indoors. So these are going to be grown indoors until they flower and fruit and I can harvest the Tiny Tims. But for tomatoes, when the ground is 50 degrees in general, you count back 6 or 8 weeks. That's when you start your tomato plants indoors. You can see I have onions going, peppers, tomatoes. If you want to grow onions, just fill a flat full of seed starting mix, put in a whole packet of seeds, and you can see that they're all coming up. I'm going to have plenty of onions. Other plants, cucumbers, zucchini, squash, the fast growers, you want to plant indoors about 4 weeks to when they would go outside. And they even actually like warmer soil, 60 degrees. But the 50 degrees Fahrenheit soil is a good kind of marker. Now, let's go outside. I'm going to talk about actually what I'm growing, how I'm redesigning the garden. My whole goal this year is to feed myself, family, friends, more from the garden and have less varieties of tomatoes, for instance. Instead of growing 40 or 50 varieties of tomatoes, I'm going to cut it down to about 20, grow specific ones in a specific place, make care a lot easier. I'll talk about that. But onions I love. So I have a flat of onions. a flat of onions, and a flat of leeks. Deer seem to leave them alone. They're going to go in places outside the garden, inside the garden. But this year I'm really growing what I enjoy, what grows well, and what I'll be able to feed myself more with over, I'm hoping to get to like a 6-month period of really being able to have something from the garden with dinner, significantly. Like I can always make tomato sauce, a bazillion gallons of it, and have tomato sauce every day for a year. But you know what I mean. So that's one of the strategies. Let's go outside. And remember, if you want to see how I grow these Tiny Tims indoors, please subscribe. Oh, there's a bunch of the herbs too. That's oregano, thyme, sage. You know, perfect to start right now. Just real quick, I'm overwintering 12 pepper plants. 3 of them have died. 9 of them are doing really well. You can tell when they're thriving, one, of course, if they've got leaves. But sometimes they don't get a lot of leaf growth. As long as these stems are nice and green, your pepper is alive and being overwintered. You can tell when a plant is dead, when you scrape it, has that hollow sound, it's all brown, it just didn't make it. But 9 out of 12, that's pretty good. These are Scotch bonnet orange and red, or maybe that's a red habanero, and a jalapeno. Not a jalapeno, I know I say that from my Jersey accent or whatever, but it's a jalapeno. And they're doing really well. So I'm excited to see how much quicker production I get from these plants when they go out in the garden. It's also time to start sweet potatoes. Sometimes you can put them in water, sometimes you can put them in soil. They pop real quick. Other times, these are put in on 12/22. Today is the 30th of January, and they're still not growing. Now, I like using the clear plastic because you can see the root system. So these will get the greenery growing. I'll be able to have my sweet potato slips, but they can take a while. So get your sweet potatoes growing now. You might notice some dust on here. That's Captain Jack's dead bug dust. I didn't wash the sweet potatoes, so I think I brought in fungus gnats. So this is sort of in isolation over here, and I'm just keeping it away from my plants until I kill off all the fungus gnats. All right, let's get outside. So what do you do when winter's in full spring? The ground is frozen solid. I brought up firewood. We're going to get snow this weekend. That'll be enough for a couple of days. A lot of what I do, I mean, actually it's cold out. It's 22 degrees now, but there's no wind, so it's beautiful. So I do just like to walk around, which I encourage you to do. Is just walk around, think about what your projects are going to be. So this is where I come out. I do a lot of construction now. That's polycarbonate that I've cut off. And I don't know if you saw the video, but I'm using corrugated polycarbonate to really build a couple of designs that will allow me to get my plants out into the garden earlier. It makes these, I'm calling it now a cloche tunnel frame, because it's kind of like a cloche, kind of like a polytunnel, kind of like a cold frame, but it's highly mobile. I can just pick it up and move it and do what I want with it. A couple of cold frames in there. In case you're not familiar with them, cold frames are more static. These can be moved, but they're big, they're bulky, and it's going to take more than one person to move them. I'll be starting seeds in there. For instance, you saw the onions that are being started in that flat. Now that they've germinated, I'm going to bring them out here. I have a thermometer in here, and even though it was getting into the teens, this ground is probably frozen. Yeah, it's not bad. It's still not frozen in there. So probably I'll be putting in some onion flats in there because this really keeps everything nice and warm. The onions are going to grow a little more slowly in the cooler weather, but they're going to be completely ready to go into the ground come hopefully the first week of March. So you can do a combination of growing indoors, get them germinated, get them started, and then you can bring them out to your cold frames. I think I showed this off before, but this is pretty cool that I dug down about 18 inches into there, and that creates a little bit more warmth. The citronella is surviving perfectly in there, so this is where I'll be moving my pepper plants out to, or into, to get them re-hardened off. Just because those peppers came in from outside, the new leaves are not used to the UV rays of the sun, so they have to get hardened off. If you've been following the alfalfa pellets, that's what the pellets turn into once they get wet. So you can see that animals don't come and bother them. So when this soil warms, that will all get raked into the top. So, shade of the morning garden, frozen solid, and I'm changing a lot over this year. Instead of doing 40 or 50 varieties of tomatoes spread out all over the garden, the first thing I'm doing is concentrating the tomatoes into one space. They're going to go in here. Peppers into one space. They're going to go along here. And then same thing with different vegetables, which I'm still figuring out what I want to do. And my whole goal is to make maintenance easier so that I'm not, having to walk all over the place to spray tomato plants. They're all in one space. And I want to cut back on the varieties of a specific type of plant like tomatoes so I can put out more vegetables out here that I can use over a longer period. Basically trying to feed myself longer. Polycarbonate, you've seen that. These are not secured. You do want to secure them. The wind can blow them off. But this is where my ginger's going to go. And ginger takes a long time to get growing. So I'm going to use these to warm up the soil in March, secure them. It'll be nice and warm. I'm actually growing ginger indoors. I'm waiting for it to kind of sprout. And I will be bringing them right out to this space here. And that's a way for me to have a lot of ginger to, season up my food. Last year, I just put the, I think the rhizomes right into the earth, but they took forever to get going. And then the cold came and, it didn't work. So I want to figure out a way to get those ginger plants out here earlier, get them growing. I'm also using these 8-foot pieces of fence posts. They're T-posts from Tractor Supply. They're only $5.98. A little expensive, sure, if you're going to buy 50 of them, but a lot less expensive than buying those posts. Well, those posts are probably $4 or $5. Wooden posts that are the 2x2s that are 8 feet are really like $3.50 now. They're less expensive on the front end, but they break down, or they break and they decay. These will last easily 10 years, probably the lifetime of your garden, so you save a lot of money that way. But this is going to be a tomato area. So the tomatoes are going to go in the 8-foot beds. I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4 in the front, 4 in the back. That's 8. Tomatoes in here, another 4, that's 12. Tomatoes back there, another 4, that's 16. Cherry tomatoes up the side, probably 3 plants, that's 17. And then I'm going to put in 8 other plants I'm figuring in a different area for other reasons. But the main growth is all going to be concentrated in this one space. Along here, there are going to be a lot of pepper plants. Then we're going to transition over to cucumbers, other plants that might climb like cantaloupe all along here. And I'm going to be putting green beans in the specific place. Could have more beans this year, but you get the idea. So now's a great time to really think about how can you best change the space, the functionality of your garden by putting in posts, trellising, and then kind of have a strategy. I have a tendency of like when the transplants are ready to grow and I'm doing flats at different times, I just come out and I'll put some tomatoes in, peppers in, zucchini over there, and it just was sort of chaotic. Because the garden's bigger now, I want stuff concentrated into a specific area of the garden. More polycarbonate. This is what I really showed in a video to build that Cloche tunnel frame, and the ground is frozen beneath there. If I reach inside here, I can dig into the ground, actually really far. It's not frozen at all. So this is kind of the working model for me to really get crops out sooner, seeds started earlier, etc. And you can see the frost is on the top and on the underside, but this works really well. I expanded the length. That was a 12-inch piece in there to 18 inches there, so I could build the same thing but maybe start seeds that way and get more rows of seeds in. So beets are going to go into this space, and you get the idea. A lot of the construction, building the ideas is happening now, and I mean, that's a lot of fun. This area is going to be my experimental garden. which means I'm going to take new varieties. I highly recommend trying to get some different varieties or different plants and grow them and see if you like them. So this is going to be sort of a model garden with tomatoes and peppers in there, squash, zucchini, cucumbers, but I'm going to try and change up the varieties, something different. Just in this corner. The rest of the garden is going to be for the homestead production, to feed myself, family, and friends. Have the bigger dome, which I've showed, polycarbonate. I'll be doing a video on that again if you want to subscribe. You can see that some cauliflower is, you know, still there. It's probably frozen through and soft, but these aren't even capped off. So I'm going to cap these off. I'll be able to start growing tomatoes and peppers a whole lot earlier in this space. What's going to go here? Not sure yet. Still thinking about it. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is, you know, then plan it for next year. Just because you can't do it now doesn't mean you can't put it in your notebook. I got down the leaves, alfalfa pellets, everything that I wanted to put on top of the beds now. And that's going to pay dividends down the line. You can see, you know, right on the mulch, that's just alfalfa pellets. Just put it down. Let nature do its thing. Want to see how cold it is here? That's frozen solid. So frozen solid, and then in that polycarbonate the ground is soft. So you can see the benefit of these cloche tunnels. Probably green beans in here. Last year I loved the sunflowers were scattered all over naturally. Probably I will let them grow because I think it's beautiful. In theory, I want to limit the growth of the wild sunflowers all over, in theory, and put them all along here. So the outer edges of my garden are going to have the mammoth sunflowers and different sunflowers. I'm really encouraging birds to come in, walk the garden, pick out bugs, eat the bad bugs, all that kind of stuff. I am still trying to use nature in a better way. Sure, some of the birds are going to eat my fruit and my plants. I'll take care of that in a different way. But the benefit is so much greater, I think, in the long run, by having nature kind of buzz in and do what it needs to do. Also running a series with my brother, actually, on my other channel. So the wind is really picking up, so I had to cut the video. This section is going to be for a new series I'm doing with my brother on my other channel. And we're going to be doing a full garden in these fabric pots by Root Pouch. I think it'll be great, and it's geared for the brand new gardener. If you don't have a lot of space, you can get set up with 100-gallon pots, 150-gallon pots, 10 gallons, 5 gallons. We sell this at our seed shop. But I think it'd be a great series. Again, small space. You don't need a lot of space. If you're just getting started, this is a great way to go. So what do? I stand up my garden with my hand frozen on the camera, and I think about what construction projects I want to do. Can't do a whole lot now because the ground's frozen in some areas. But I try and redesign it, get my plan in place, and then I try and stick to the plan 75%. You don't need to be perfect. At least I'm not. And I'll make some changes. The gate is frozen. There we go. And I'll make some changes that will help me be that will help the garden be more productive and will cut back on my work. So that's a great combination. More production from your plants, less work for you. And that's a strategy that I'm trying to employ. Another cold frame. It's effective. I built this, but it's really hard to move. I want to move this to a different area. I'm not sure what I'll do with this year, but that's effective too. This worked really well, and I just want to let people know, I might have talked about it before, that's string on there with bells. This kept the deer from going in there. It's not going to stop rabbits, but it's a nice design and it's effective. Lots of onions, lots of leeks will be going in there. And then finally, I want to end with a problem. Here in these beds, bringing in a lot of the shredded hardwood, for whatever reason, the batch had wireworms in there, which are like mealworms. Anyway, they would dig into my onions. That was the problem. This is going to get a nice drench of neem oil come March, and that will soak in. Hopefully that kills off some of the wireworms. But because I know that there's a problem here, I am going to put in some onions, see if the problem is gone. But I'm also going to put onions in other places of the garden. And that kind of leaves me with a lot of people ask me, do you rotate your crops? So if you have acres, it's a good idea to move your crops, rotate your crops to different places. For instance, if I just grew tomatoes here and then I moved them over to there, you might be like, ah, that's a great idea. However, any disease and problems are going to drift over to there. If you're feeding and using organic matter, compost, and you're putting it down, that's going to take care of the soil. Sometimes you rotate crops to move them to a place where they'll get better nutrition because maybe they've depleted the soil, and then you want to add in composts and manures and fix up the soil. In a smaller garden, you're always bringing in compost, so the nutrients should be fine. And in the smaller garden, moving plants from here to that side isn't really going to stop insects from flying over. Or if diseases come in like early blight, they're floating in the air, so rotation isn't going to matter. But if you're on a grander scale, acres, it does make sense to move your plants to different places. Since it's a rambling video, I'm not done yet. I'm going to be using this wooden ladder as a trellis. Let's end on that. 20 bucks, nice tall trellis. I'll be able to sit melons on there if I'm going to grow melons on that, secure them to that, but I think that'll be a cool way. And just a quick look at the different trellising options, and that's what I recommend now. Just think about what you want to build to your garden, get the supplies. If the ground's not frozen, put them up, but just think about what you want for 2021. Thanks so much for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.